It's a very military law. Comes from Sun Tzu, and like the perfect army doesn't have a form. You can't figure out where they are, what their strategy is. Their strategy has no form. Or the great swordsman Miyamoto Musashi, who said that, nobody ever knew what my strategy would be. I was completely formless. So it's a way of being very fluid in life and very open, and never doing the same thing twice, and adapting your what you do to the circumstances around you. And when you have a stroke, it's not easy to do that, right? Because your body certainly isn't capable of being fluid. So your mind has to be fluid. I have to retrain myself from not getting stuck in certain ideas and certain patterns of thinking, certain negative things and certain frustrations and certain ways of looking at the world. I have to be fluid and take each day as it comes and adapt myself to this new body that I have.
Yeah.
So I think about that law a lot.
How does someone, you have a book on mastery, how does someone master the art of something if they're always trying something new every day? Or if they're always formless and reinventing themselves every day, or, what I mean? From the swordsman you're saying, it's like he was always in a new strategy, but if you want to master something, you typically have to do something over and over to master it, correct?
Yeah, well, that's the thing about my books and about the laws. They're about circumstances. So I'm not saying assume formlessness for all you people out there who are 18 years old who are about to enter the work world, or 21. Just be formless. No.
Master something, and then when you've mastered multiple things, you can adapt.
Miyamoto Musashi was fighting for 20 years as a swordsman in life and death battles, and he eventually developed this power of his, right? But if he were formless without ever having any experience, he would have been killed in his first sword fight. So, you have to have discipline. You have to assume, like, this is what I'm doing and this is my career path, as you talk about, as you mentioned in Mastery. And you have to put in the hours, the 10,000, the 20,000 hours. And then when you get to the level of a master, like a Bobby Fischer in chess, then you can do anything you want. You're on another level. You can be as formless as possible, right? So, you're right. I'm not advocating that for just anybody out there. But for me in my situation, after I've had, the success, and it's also for people who've suffered a major blow like that, like an illness or something, where your habits of thinking can get very set and very rigid, where every day you wake up and go, wow, why do I have to be like this? Why couldn't it have happened this differently? And as opposed to being open to what life brings me every single day, and not developing a kind of a defensive, rigid attitude.
One of the things that I love about your journey and story is that you mastered so many different types of writing over 20, 30 years. I think you were like first in a newspaper, and then a magazine, and then screenwriting, and then certain types of books, and then weird, you did all these different styles of writing that you tried a lot of things, mastered them to a certain point, which gave you the range to kind of write in the way you do now. It gave you the ability to write the way you do now, which I think is interesting. So I like that you say that when you're in your 20s, like find something to hang on to master for a few years, then you can go to the next thing, and that'll give you more range.
Well, I don't know if I can remember my metaphor, but it's like you want a path in life when you're 20, 21, 22, but you don't want it to be so rigid because you're going to burn out, you're going to get bored, and you're going to give up. You want that path to be like that instead of like this. So you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way, you can go this way. But if your path is like that, you'll never find anything because you'll try everything. So I knew I was to be a writer, and I tried 8 different forms of writing. You want to be a musician, you try writing music, you try learning an instrument, you try performing, producing, you go into entertainment, a lawyer as a music lawyer, whatever. You try different things, but this is what I love in life. If you have no idea what you're going to love, and I deal with that because I help consult with people who come to me with that very issue. Robert, I don't know what my life's task is. I never had any education when I was a kid. That's the worst situation to be in. There are ways to solve that, but that's really painful because you have no idea where to go. But you want to have a sense, but you want to be fluid and open so that eventually what happens is you hit upon the right thing, right?
And most of us are never going to hit the right thing at 25.
No. I was 36, 37, your age.
Wow.
When it happened.
So maybe I'll start to feel like I'm hitting the right thing soon.
Yeah, you found it out a little early. You found it out like 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's always evolving and growing, and you got to be fluid with it. So It's funny because I've been consistent with the main thing, which I started a podcast almost 8 years ago, and I said I'm going to do it once a week for a year and see how it goes. See if I like it, learn, but I got to be consistent enough for a year. Then I did twice a week for the second year. Now we've done 3 a week for the last 5, 6 years, I guess now. And I've been consistent in one thing, trying to improve. You see me from the first episode to now in the different stages, the leveling out the production, the set, everything, the audio quality, video, all these different things, my skills. But also, I wrote a book. I'd never done that before. We did live events. It's like I'm trying new things as well that I'm not that good at the start, but we start to master them over time.
Right.
To create more range and diversity. So, but I'm still sticking to the main thing is the main thing.
Right. And
evolving as I go. So
yeah, that's the perfect way to do it. Because, you need challenges in life.
You do.
So, I always look at it this way. If you're here, this is your skill level. A challenge like here is going to really improve you. If the challenge is here, it's too much, you'll fail, and it'll have bad consequences. If you're here and you're below your level, you're going to get bored. So the optimum thing is to always choose your next project that's a little bit above you so you can learn and feel excited and challenged and have that adrenaline rush from trying to meet the challenge and get there, and all your energy is involved. And so that's the proper way to do things in life for me.
So what about laws of human nature? What was one that you were like, oh, this is my law. This is the one that I love the most right now, for whatever reason, pre-stroke, to the one now that you think about more as important for your life?
Well, my favorite chapter was kind of about the dark side of human nature, the shadow. Confront your dark side and make it work for you, as opposed to repressing it, right? So everybody has a dark side. I don't care if you're Mahatma Gandhi or whomever, you have a dark side, right? And it comes out in ways that you're not even aware of. And I explain in the book where our dark side originates from. As a child, we had a lot of powerful emotions that we couldn't control. We would hit our sister. We would play terrible practical jokes, and I'm not talking personally.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I did the same thing, yeah.
Terrible practical jokes. We'd be kind of mean and aggressive, but also we'd be very loving, which is true as well. We'd be a full range of things. And then you learn as you get older, Robert, you can't hit people in school. Stop that. Don't be like that. Don't play those practical jokes. It's bad. People don't like it. And you get older and older, and you start repressing those kind of feelings that are very natural to you, right? Because we all have aggressive impulses. We love our parents, but there's also a side of us that doesn't like them. We resent them. It's natural. But we have to repress all that because we have to be good social animals. We have to be good little kids. We have to be little angels at school. We have to be angels at work. All this pressure, like, I've got to repress all that. I've got to be this perfect person. I have to be someone who pleases, who's very nice, blah, blah, blah. And then when you're 28, you start becoming addicted to alcohol and you don't know why. You start getting really angry. You have anger issues. You yell at people. You don't know why. You're like a 45-year-old person with a very steady profession. You leave your wife and you run off with a 19-year-old, without any, destroying everything that you've built. The dark side has come out because you've repressed it instead of dealing with it. So the idea was you need to understand your dark side, confront it, and make it work for you. And I have a dark side. I have, every chapter in the book, sometimes now I think that my answer wasn't the right answer, but I'll go with it anyway.
It's all good.
In writing the book, I kept having to say, I wrote a chapter on narcissism. Robert, you're a narcissist, I read a chapter on the dark side. I go, Robert, you have a dark side. The same thing with the chapter on aggression. And what is my dark side? And I had to analyze it and deal with it and think about it. And think about how any success I've had in life is because I managed to use those dark emotions in my work and channeled them, because they have tremendous energy to them. They power you forward. So I had anger coming out of working in Hollywood. I kind of hated the environment. I hated people's hypocrisy. I hated all the sycophancy and all that. I was really angry, but I didn't let the anger turn inward. I channeled it into the 48 laws of power. So I used my dark side. And I really liked that law because it showed me that I'm a victim of this, but I also unconsciously learned how to use what I'm writing about. So I kind of drew on my own experience.
What about when you're in a relationship and you want the relationship to work long term? You want to have, whether you're getting married and you want to, you want to last, and you don't want to just hang on to the marriage and be miserable, but you want it to be a happy, thriving existence, healthy, conscious, loving, to the best of your ability. Should we continue to seduce our partners in committed long-term relationships, or is that not something you do once you're in a relationship?
Well, I have a chapter in The Art of Seduction that deals with it. I think it's the last chapter. And basically, I think a lot of people complain. It used to be women complained about it, but I think it transcends that, where we've been in a relationship for a year, and all the things that I'm going and hearing the woman talk, because I've heard this before, everything that he used to do, he doesn't do anymore.
Right.
He doesn't take me special places. He doesn't make that extra effort. He doesn't buy me special gifts anymore. All the things that he did when he wanted to have sex, he was like going crazy and doing all these things. He was dressing really well. Now he kind of dresses like a slob. He kind of doesn't want to go out anymore. I hear that more than I hear the opposite. Like, he keeps trying to seduce me and I'm getting tired of it. I don't hear that too much.
Right.
But I hear that he's taking me for granted, right? So it's not like you're practicing the same things that you did when you were trying to get that other person to fall in love with you. That would be exhausting, right? And I don't think it would really work. But it's that you still do some of the effort, right? You still try to surprise the other person. You still have sides of your character that they don't know about. You do things that they've never seen before. You still take them to places. You still put effort into buying gifts, right? You buy that special gift. You still take effort to take them one night to a special restaurant or to a movie something that they hadn't. Like, if you understand, if you listen deeply to that other person and they reveal their secret desires and what they're not getting from the world, just take that in and go, if I give her a gift or take her to a place that fills that very thing that she said she's not getting, man, that'll have such a powerful effect on that person. Even if you've been in a relationship for 2 or 3 years. And I've been in a relationship for decades, I'm afraid I have to admit. And you still have to go through that process.
Really?
Yeah.
What is the questions you can ask to find out someone's secret desires without saying, what are your secret desires?
You just have to listen. Okay, so the main thing is get them to talk about their childhood.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, don't go, tell me about your father. Was he nice to you? Just
what question can you ask in an organic, relaxed way that would open that up, do you think?
Well, in the course of a context, you can say, I don't know. It's like, are you close to your parents? Do you see them? And then just without being, too inquisitive, without making it clear that that's what you're doing, just get them to talk about their early life.
Why is that important to figuring out people's secret desires as adults, asking about their childhood?
Because it's the key to everything.
Really?
In the Laws of Human Nature, I have a chapter about, I call it about gender, about the mix of the masculine and feminine in us. And there's a concept from the great psychologist Jung called the anima and animus. And he basically says that from a man, from his mother, if you're straight, because these things change, the man from his mother internalizes an image of women that it'll haunt him for his entire life.
Wow.
Right? Because the relationship between a mother and son is very intense. It's not the same as between a mother and a daughter, right? Because she's the opposite gender. you're suckling on her breast. She's the only person you know for the first couple of years. It's very powerful. And unconsciously, her image slips inside of you. You internalize a part of it. And you're going to have this, you're going to carry with this. Even if you don't like your mother and you come to not like her later on, that image is still inside of you, and you're still going to choose women that have some of those qualities that you would like, you wish your mother had, or that she did have. So those early relationships, the woman with her father will tell you so much about her and about her weaknesses and her vulnerabilities.
Really?
And what she's missing. Yeah.
So what if if the person...
That's one,
Okay.
Anything where the person gets excited, right?
Then just take note of that.
Yeah.
And start
If you touch upon a subject and you see that they get nervous or they laugh a lot, they're very excited, just put that in your little index there and go and return to it. Know you've hit upon a chord, a subject that either excites them or gives them like fear or whatever. There's something very powerful going on there, right?
Right.
So, and childhood is a very powerful one like that.
So, what should people be aware of when they're getting into a relationship? What do you think are a few questions they should ask and get answers to see if it's a potential for a good relationship, or it's going to be completely off, or they're just wasting their time trying to get into this? Are there any questions you can think of?
Well, no, I can't think of questions. It's more like...
Or should it be asking, how is your parents' relationship and this and that?
It's not that direct. It's not that verbal. It's not that intellectual. It's more of a kind of a spirit meshing between two people, right? So there are plenty of examples of couples that have done extremely well where they kind of disagree on political issues, although that can be a problem as well. But there's a little bit of tension on that, but they connect on some deeper level. I refer people to that chapter I was just talking about in the Laws of Human Nature, where there's a level where we connect to people that is not on the surface, that is kind of nonverbal. It has to do with our unconscious. It has to do with things that we've never been able to get from our parents or whatever. And we've kind of have these ideals that have been unmet. And connecting on that level, connecting on the level of spirit, where your emotions, it's more like your emotions mesh together well than your ideas. Like there's,
Yes.
And because if that other person is incredibly dramatic and out there, and that's not something you can, even though they have the similar ideas to you, it's going to grate on your nerves,
I saw a post recently, about something like, I'm going to mess this up, but something like you don't marry the person, you marry the person's like trauma, you marry their, in-laws trauma, you marry like what they haven't healed yet, you marry their emotional, the relationship to certain things. You're marrying the emotions of the person, really.
Yes, exactly.
And being aware, like, just because they look great and just because you have fun together certain times, you're really marrying all the other stuff along with it.
Right, and you won't find that out right away.
Because they're good at hiding it.
Yeah.
Right? They're good at, like, reserving that until 6 months, a year, 2 years later, right?
Yeah.
So it's making sure that your emotions mesh well over your ideals. Is that what I'm hearing?
Over the intellectual part, over just the superficial fact that you both vote Democratic or Republican, or that you both like this movie director. I mean, certain tastes that mesh are important, but I don't think there has to be kind of a charge between you, a kind of something that goes on underneath the surface that has nothing to do with just words or kind of superficial things. There's something deep,
spiritual.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people will think, oh, we have all these things in common, we have this connection, this is a great match, but then they don't experience the emotional or spiritual level
Right.
And then that comes out later, and you're like, well, we are from the same city, and we went to the same school, and we voted whatever, and we have similar friends, and we like to go to baseball games.
Yeah.
But if there's not that spiritual or emotional meshing,
Well, you hit your idea is very apt. You are mirroring the other person's emotions, right? And so that's not something that you see right away. And you could love the same movies, you can have all these other things, but if that part isn't connecting on the right way, if they're revealing something that's going to really drive you crazy after several months or years, doesn't matter about how well your ideas are similar.
what if your ideas are amazing together, the sexual connection is incredible, but the emotional level is not in sync? Like,
Well, it's hard to generalize.
Yes.
Have a relationship. It'll probably last just a few weeks or a couple months. It'll be hard to build a relationship where you don't connect on this kind of deeper level. But that's not to say that it doesn't happen. And it isn't to say that people can't change, right? So, you might discover after 5 years that this person has qualities that kind of get on your nerves a little bit. You wish you had seen them earlier. But by then you've fallen in love with them.
right.
And you go, I can appreciate their weaknesses. I can love their weaknesses. I can get over it. It still kind of irritates me. It still irritates me, but there's something deeper. I actually really love this person. And even their flaws are lovable. And that happens, right? So it's hard to generalize about everything. And you can't change. You can see that maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm too cold and rational and they're too dramatic, and maybe I can learn from her or him and become more like them. People change, and that's the great thing about a great relationship, is the ability for the other person to change you as well.
To influence you, yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been in your relationship now?
It's over 20 years.
Over 20 years. Yeah. What do you wish you knew about, being in a long-term relationship like this 20 years ago? Is there anything you would have done differently on your end, or anything that you would wish you would have known to, I don't know, it seems like it's been a happy, healthy relationship to last that long. But is there anything you wish you would have knew earlier, Robert, at that point before getting into the relationship?
You mean, and not have the relationship, or what?
No, and being in the relationship, like things that you could have, I don't know, it's things you could have eliminated or things that you could have done differently yourself to make it even greater, or wish you would have solved things before challenges came up for you, if they did come up?
Well,
Or have you just been the king of relationships?
No, not at all. As I made very clear, I have got my own problems, my own flaws, No, I mean, being more forgiving would have probably helped, I can be kind of rigid and kind of stubborn, thinking I know the right way all the time. And I felt like, she had certain flaws that were really too strong. And if I could just go with them and say that I have flaws as well, and be a little more humble and being more forgiving of her, I think that would have helped.
Yeah.
And that's not easy all the time.
How important is it, do you think, being in a healing process before entering a new relationship, as opposed to just jumping into a relationship without the process of reflection, self-awareness, looking at what pain has caused you in your past that you haven't forgiven or healed?
It's very, very important, because oftentimes your choices with a partner occur for reasons that you're not aware of.
Really?
And I talked about an example in The Laws of Human Nature that's sort of a classic case in therapy, where this man had come to a therapist, and he had a series of 10 very powerful emotional relationships, and each time he broke it off. And he would say, she betrayed me here. I found out that this was happening, and I no longer loved her. On and on and on. The therapist started to go into his early childhood, and he discovered that he had a mother, this man, who was very cold, wasn't very loving to him, and he had a sense. And this is what happens to children. It happens to boys when the mother is like that. you feel abandoned. You don't feel like it's your fault. I'm sorry, you don't feel like it's their fault. You feel like something's wrong with you. And they have chosen to abandon you. And it scars you. It scars that 3-year-old in a way that he'll never get over. And so what his pattern was, each time he got in a relationship, before the woman could begin to maybe hurt him and abandon him, he was the one doing the abandoning. It gave him a sense of power and control. It was like he was redoing the mother relationship where he was the one abandoning and not being abandoned. He was not aware of this at all. He'd gone through 35 years of his life and all of these relationships, probably choosing women that kind of mirrored that early relationship as well, but that he could then have abandoned them so he could have this feeling of power. Now, you might not be having something so dramatic going on in your life, but you will have patterns like that. And I know I've had patterns like that. And I've analyzed them and I've become aware of them. And so if you've been in a very bruising, kind of damaging relationship, which we've all had if you've been alive for enough years, right? It is absolutely essential that you step back and analyze it, because kind of negative relationships and traumas like that will reveal a lot of truths about yourself. You will tend to blame the other person for everything, but you need to look at yourself and see the patterns that are making you fall for people like that, right?
You getting into those relationships over and over again.
Yeah.
So what would it look like when you start the healing process or the awareness process of, okay, I'm the one who's responsible for this pattern. I'm the common denominator of all these relationships. So there's, partially me to be responsible for. What would it feel like to start the healing process? And what would that next relationship look like when you make a commitment? Would it just feel different? Would it feel like, oh, this is very healthy? How would that look, do you think?
Well, there's a lot of problems. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And the main problem, Louis, is, believe it or not, some of those early dysfunctional relationships with your parents are charged with this kind of sexual energy.
Really?
Yeah. And so you'll find yourself attracted to the very man or woman who's going to hurt you. Whereas the man or woman who is good for you, there's no kind of sexual charge. Because, and this isn't everybody, this is maybe a third, I don't know what the percentage is. Don't quote me on that.
Sure.
But you are actually more attracted to the person that has these damaged qualities.
Why is that?
Because you get to relive some of those early traumas, right? And so the problem that will happen, and I can see this in my own life as well, that the person who is good for you, that's actually caring, that will mesh with you, that physical charge maybe isn't as strong, right? And that's a problem, right? Because you want to have that element. But you need to be aware of this. You need to be aware of the fact that some of the people that you're most attracted to, you're not attracted to just because of their sexy body or whatever it is. There's also some kind of issues you haven't worked out from your early childhood that are at play in that relationship and that are going to cause you a lot of pain.
Why does that turn us on sexually, do you think? Why is the human brain turned on by drama and, unhealthy relationships? Like, why does that?
Well, I would be a multi-billionaire by now if I could answer those questions.
Yes.
I'd be the ultimate doctor of love. But I can say this, that when you're a child, you're 2 or 3 years old, we're talking about entering the spirit. Try and enter the spirit of the 3-year-old Lewis Howes. You're very vulnerable. You're very weak, right? You're at the mercy of this person who's very powerful. Your mother and also your father, or it depends on what, You're at their mercy, right? And you're open to them. You depend on them for so much. So the emotional energy that you are putting onto them is extremely powerful.
Wow.
More powerful than any other relationship you'll have in your life, and you're not aware of it. And so it meshes with all these other kind of physical impulses and desires that you have. Because a child who's 2 or 3 years old is actually still having like sexual impulses very early on. It's kind of creating a pattern of attraction that you are very rarely aware of. It's not to say everybody is like that, but it's a pretty common denominator that, if you have, for instance, a very narcissistic mother, right, who was more interested in herself than in you, you're going to be attracted to narcissistic women.
If you're a man.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah. And you're not aware of it. And, it creates a lot of pain for you, right? So you've got to go through a process. It's kind of like there's the ancient Greek play of Oedipus, right? I don't know if you were. He killed his father, and then he ended up marrying his mother.
Crazy.
Yeah, so we get the Oedipus complex from, right? And he never realizes it until he's like in his late 30s, and he's gone through his whole career as the king of Thebes. And then suddenly he's made aware of it through various things that happen, right? And it's like, oh my God, really? I've done all that? This is what my life is? And he's so overwhelmed that he cuts his eyes out and he blinds himself as proof of, how blind he was in life.
Wow.
And so the Greeks are saying in that play that we're all kind of blind. Fate kind of pushes us around and we're not even aware of it. And the moment of feeling enlightened about becoming aware of some of these patterns in your childhood is actually a great moment. It's very painful, but it's very powerful, Sorry, I didn't mean to take it. I didn't mean to take it to such a dark place.
No, I love this. Let's say someone has been through a tough breakup, and maybe this is their first breakup they've gone through that was tough, a tough relationship, or this is a pattern. This is their third or fifth relationship in 10 years that's been like, what's wrong with me? What would you say would be the next three things they should focus on after the breakup on how to find that awareness and open their eyes, on how to start, observing men or women in a different way before they get so committed and go all in and start fantasizing about how amazing they are? What would you say are three things they could do before entering another relationship?
Well, first of all, to become acquainted with yourself and to know who you are and know the source of your own desires. So if it's your very first relationship, it's a little hard to see patterns, but you can begin to see patterns of the kind of person that you're attracted to after the third or fourth time, and to analyze that and to be aware of it. Now, if some people will say, well, won't that kind of ruin the whole relationship game that analyze myself that seems so unseductive, etc. And if you're in your 20s and you're healthy and you're young, maybe it doesn't matter so much.
Right.
You're going to have some painful moments, but you're having a lot of fun. Okay, I'm not going to rain on that parade. But eventually, you're not going to be so. You're going to be in your late 20s. You're going to be in your early 30s, and the series of bad relationships, they're going to start wearing on you. They're going to start creating trauma, and they'll start infecting you with this kind of defensiveness, where every time you meet someone, you're worried that they're going to hurt you, and you can't open yourself up to them, right? So you've got to, as early as possible, understand your own patterns. Why am I attracted to this person? Just simply ask that question, right? It's, what was it about him or her that attracted me to that person? Is there something I'm not thinking about? Could I have foreseen some of the darker side of this person earlier on?
Yes.
Most obviously. Could I have seen the fact that he could be someone who could be kind of cold and abusive? Yes. Oftentimes a man who is like that will love bomb the woman. He'll overwhelm them with emotion so they get confused and they're not aware of it. That also is a sign when a man overwhelms you in the first 2 days with so much attention that he's hiding something dark. But don't look at it as if it's always the other person. See your own temptation, why you give into someone like that, why you are attracted to people like that, right? Go through that process and then say, all right, what are the qualities that I really, really want? What is important for me that I'm not getting from this person? The sex is great, but there are other things that are more important, like validation, Like the other person cares about my work and about my career. They're not just interested in me as a physical presence, but they actually show interest in my future, right?
Yes.
What are these things that I need that are very important to me that I didn't get in that last relationship, right?
Yes.
Who am I, right? That's just the question. Who am I? What are my deepest needs and what are my dark patterns, right?
Yes.
And then to go through a process of, we talked about this earlier, if I now become all defensive and closed, and if I'm like always judging the person, oh, he's not right for me, or she's not, because you're afraid of being hurt again.
That last person has power over you still.
Yeah, they defeated you. They conquered your spirit.
Wow.
So you can't be afraid to have some more of that pain again, right? You have to open yourself up a little bit here.
Yeah.
And if you do that and you're hurt again, at least you can say that that person who hurt me earlier on has no more power over me. I'm still able to fall in love. I'm still able to open myself up to another person.
Yes.
It's incredibly important to be able to feel vulnerable to another person. It's a deep human need. It goes back to our childhood. It's part of our human nature. And if you close yourself off, it's not only going to affect your romantic relationships, it's going to affect you in work and everything.
Yeah, so don't jump into another relationship if you're closed off, is what I'm hearing you say. Like, be willing to heal that part or process it.
And then one last thing.
Yes.
You asked for 3. Those were 2.
Yes.
I'll give you a third. The third is learn to judge people by their character.
So true.
All right? So not the superficial charm and smiles and all the great stuff that they're able to fake, but who they are deep inside, right? Do they have some of these strong character traits? Can they take criticism? Man, you have no idea that is such an important quality in a relationship.
Taking criticism?
Yeah. If that other person cannot take any kind of criticism, how can you be in a relationship with them? And they find ways to make you pay for criticizing them. They get passive aggressive, they get cold. Oh, I'm never going to do that again. You can't be in a relationship.
Right.
So judge someone like that. Can they take criticism? Can they deal with moments of stress? Can they get outside of themselves and think about me? Think about how they are in a conversation. Do they hear what you're saying? Do they come back with things that reveal the fact that they've been listening to you, that they picked up signals from you? Get inside them, get inside their character, and be able to judge them on that basis as opposed to their sexy veneer that they have. So those would be the 3 things. It all starts with something very simple, which is the power over yourself. If you have no power over yourself, then you're at the whim of everything else in this world, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean to have power over yourself? Well, and this is a lot of what I talk about in the daily laws. It begins with something very simple, which is you have to know who you are, right? So you're walking around in this world. You don't know really who you are. You don't know what your needs are, what you really desire in your life, because you're a product of social media. You're a product of what other people are telling you you should like, what your parents tell you, what your friends tell you. You don't know who you are, what drives you, what really motivates you deep down. And so you're kind of wandering in life. And when you're unmoored from yourself, everything else will affect you in a way that you cannot control, right?
When you're what from yourself?
Unmoored.
What's that mean?
When you don't have an anchor. Like a moor is like an anchor.
Okay.
So
you gotta speak in simple terms to me.
Sorry. Maybe it's my pronunciation.
No, it's good. No. I don't know what the word is. That's what I was saying. Unmoored. Gotcha.
Okay. So it's like a boating term.
Yeah.
So, if you don't know, like, what you were intended to do in life, like what your career was that meshes with you well, right? You're going to be making all of these wrong decisions, and people will do things to you that you won't be able to understand why you're reacting the way you're reacting.
Yes.
You'll get lost. You'll end up in blind alleys with your career, and you'll go, man, I'm so helpless. I have no power. I have no control. The world is against me. It's 2021. It's the pandemic. No, it's you. It starts inside of you. The real problem is in you, not in the world, right? You don't know who you are. And it's not easy. I have sympathy for people because we're so distracted. We're so much in our phones. We're so much listening to what other people are telling us is cool on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, etc. We're like creatures of media. We've been programmed. We don't know really what drives us anymore. We're so tuned to what other people are telling us is what we should be interested in, right? So it's not easy. It takes some time. It takes some reflection, right? That means that you have to have the ability to step back, be alone with your thoughts, and as this book is talking about, meditate and reflect on your childhood, on who you are, on the mistakes you've made, on the wrong career paths you've taken, on the wrong relationships you've taken, and begin to construct an image of that real secret inner, the true Lewis Howes that lies buried deep within all the bullshit that people have added onto it. If you can't control yourself, if you don't know yourself, you can't control your own emotions. You're going to be reacting to everything that comes your way without understanding why you're doing that. So when you know yourself, you know, I don't need to get angry about this because it's not something that touches me personally. It doesn't matter in the end. Whereas if you don't know who you are, everything affects you personally, and you're getting grumpy and insecure and bitter and resentful. You have to start with yourself. It goes back to the ancient Greeks and the Oracle of Delphi. Know thyself.
Right. What is the source of our inner power that we maybe aren't even aware of?
Very simple. What makes you an individual? What makes you different? Your uniqueness. That's what the first month in the Daily Loss is about, the month of January. So if you look at people who are successful, you look at a Lewis Howes, or you look at a Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or whomever, you say to yourself, there's nobody else like them on the planet. You may hate Elon Musk. You may think he's an egocentric maniac, but you can't tell me there's another person with with that kind of guts,
right?
With that kind of confidence and with that kind of vision, right? Okay, because he's one of a kind, right? And you're going around trying to imitate other people, trying to do what you think other people are doing. You're running away from your source of power. What makes you unique, what makes you even weird, what you may even be afraid of because it's so different from other people, is your source of power. It's what makes you a Superman or woman or whatever. Yes. So I don't want to talk about myself too much because who's interested in that? But, I write books that nobody else has the same kind of structure or the same kind of approach. That is my source of power. And very early on, it was threatened. I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. We finished it in 1998. The publisher had already purchased it, but they came back and they go, Robert, this book's a little weird.
Yes.
The structure, the things on the side. We want you to change it. We want you to make it more like other books out there. And me and my partner, the guy who packaged it, he backed me up and we said, no, we'll walk away from the deal. We'll find someone else. Because we knew that being different was the key to making this book a success. It could very easily fail. It could have bombed, but it would have failed in the right way, which is being yourself, doing something different, standing out and not being afraid of what makes you unique.
And how old were you then when you launched that book?
98. I was 39 when it came out.
39. Did you have a lot of success prior that would have shown this would have been a success?
Nope.
So you weren't some big shot writer that was
Absolutely
getting awards and other things?
I was the very opposite of that.
You were the opposite?
Yeah. Well, I mean, very simply, quickly, I graduated college. I wandered around Europe kind of trying to write the great American novel. I lived in Paris. I lived in Spain. I lived in London. Had all kinds of seductions. I had a great life, a lot of fun. Then I come back to New York. It's time to get serious.
Yes.
I get into journalism. I kind of started off successfully. I worked at Esquire. But then I didn't really like journalism and it kind of wasn't working. And then after 4 years I go, this isn't right for me. Go back to Europe, I wander around, I try to write another novel, fail again. I come back to LA to try and make it in the film business, and it doesn't work well, and I'm a failed screenwriter. I work for various film directors, but I can't sell a single one of my screenplays.
Wow.
And here I am, 35, 36. You know, I have a lot of skill. I've learned writing for film. I've learned writing for journalism. I've been writing novels. I have skill. I have discipline. I have research ability, but I have nothing to show for it.
Right.
Absolutely nothing. I was a nobody. And this man whom I met, who, you know, I've told the story many times, I pitched the idea of the 48 Laws of Power. He thought it was great. But, you know, there's a big difference between pitching something and making it happen. But because I had been so disciplined and I'd been writing all this time, I could actually, you know, meet his expectations and write a proposal that would get him excited. But I had nothing to back up my, to answer your question, I had nothing to back up my confidence
Right.
that this book would be good. Just simply having a sense it's a book about power, and I understood instinctively that power is about kind of going your own way. You know, enter action with boldness. That's going to be one of my chapters. And then I'm going to be all weak and timid about my book and how it has to be like other books, that I'm a hypocrite. So I was bold, we were bold, and it turned out well.
So you were 39 when the book came out. I'm pretty much 40 years old with nothing to show for your life, except for lots of experience, but not a bunch of success or accomplishments.
No success, no accomplishments. My parents were starting to give up on me.
So you turned 40, and the book really didn't take off right away, right? Didn't it take some time for it to kind of...
It did well. I mean, it got attention. We got a lot of press for it. It kind of stirred, because it's a weird book, kind of stirred up some interest. And it was selling, but it's selling much more now than it did back then.
Really?
Yeah.
20-something years later.
Oh man, like during the pandemic, the sales have skyrocketed.
No way.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did you have confidence to claim your inner power after years and years of trying things and not working out the way you wanted, kind of trying something else? How did you stay consistent with your inner power and not lose sight of at least trying new things?
Well, it's a great question, and it's not an easy answer, but it might even sound a little bit insane, to be honest with you. But deep down inside, I always had kind of a weird faith in myself. I always had a sense that there was a destiny, that my life was following a certain path, that there was something fated to happen. Maybe it was a little bit grandiose, maybe it was kind of overconfidence, because it would swing up and down. I would go from confidence to the deepest depression. But deep down inside, I never gave up, because I knew I had something in me. You know, now if the 48 Laws of Power hadn't worked, I don't know if I would have gotten my act together.
Wow.
I might have been crushed by it, to be honest with you. Or maybe I would have picked myself up like I had picked myself up 30, 40 other times in the past, when people told me, like this one editor, Robert, you're never going to be a good writer. You should go into business or law school. You know, I've been crushed several times, and I picked myself up. But, you know, I don't know if that might have been the nail in my coffin, literally, at that point. But I had a voice inside of me saying, you can write. I know you can write. I've seen you write, Robert. I've seen you write great things. You've never put it together. You've never made it consistent. But you have a voice. And that inner voice of mine might have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, so I could barely hear it, but it never left me.
How does someone give themselves more power when they feel defeated?
Well, we're circling back to the original thing, you know. So if you know that you were destined for something, that you were fated for something, that you have a sense that your life had a meaning, a purpose, then you can withstand the traumas, the setbacks, the difficulties, the bullshit criticism, and all the other things, right? So in Mastery, I talk about a very simple fact. When you were born, you have this DNA that will never be replicated in the history of the universe.
Crazy.
There will never be another person with your exact makeup, Lewis Howes. And on top of that, No one will ever have your exact parents and your upbringing and your early life. So there's only one of you that's ever existed, right? And that there's a reason for that. There's a purpose behind it. And the purpose behind it is our culture, the same thing as in nature, thrives by the diversity, the people coming into it with different angles, different perceptions, different ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes a culture creative, etc. It's why the Renaissance was so great. All right. So it is a purpose for you being who you are, right?
Yes.
And it may not be that you were destined to be Napoleon or a president or whatever, but there is some kind of greatness in you waiting to come out. And it could be just on the level of working with your hands. Working with your hands is a great skill. To be a master carpenter, to be a master builder with wood or whatever, that is a form of greatness.
Absolutely.
You were destined to do something like that. And it was in, like a seed was planted at your birth. But if you don't know what that is, then you can't find your way back to it. And if you're 24 and you're in my position, and that man who's having his third martini says, Robert, you're never going to be a great writer, go to business school, I would have gone to business school. I wouldn't be here talking to you. But I kind of sensed deep down inside that I was destined for something else, right? I talk to a lot of people, particularly in the podcast world, people who began other careers. They went into law, they went into something else. Mm-hmm. They weren't happy, right? And then they found their way to like creating a podcast, and it's taken off, right? It's made their lives. They found their way slowly to something else. It wasn't just any old podcast. It was something that reflected their own strangeness, their own weirdness. But they have discovered something that they were destined to do that makes them different, right?
Yes.
Because there are a million other people who can do the same thing out there in this world. But there's only one person like you, born with your own strangeness, your own inclinations, you know?
Absolutely.
There's that Jimi Hendrix song, I don't quote him often, but he says, I'm gonna wave my freak flag high, right? You wanna wave your freak flag high. You're a freak, you're weird, you're different, but embrace it. That's your source of power. And when people criticize you and you have setbacks, you'll land back on your feet if you know that. You'll have moments of doubt and depression like I did, but you'll eventually land back on your feet.
Do you think it's possible to accomplish your goals and achieve great things and be a success in whatever the definition is for you without going through multiple failures? Do you think it's possible to just be, just finish school and now the first thing I do, it's just going to work out and everything just works? Is that possible?
I'd say no.
No.
Yeah. Because it's just not how life goes, you know? I mean, think of like the greatest athletes in the world, people who are at the top 0.1% of the top of their profession. They're failing all the time.
Yeah.
They're not winning championships every year, right? Their careers go up and down, up. Everybody who's successful, you will see ups and downs. We venerate Steve Jobs as perhaps the greatest tech entrepreneur. He went through an incredibly dark period. After he founded the company, he got fired from Macintosh. He founded Next, which was a failure. He was as depressed as I was in the mid-90s. He didn't know what was going on. Then he got his career resurrected with Apple on a second go. He had a career that went like that, you know. I mean, you can take any name and you can find the same kind of trajectory.
Right.
And it's because through failure, you develop some toughness, some inner toughness, right? You develop a thick skin. You're able to take it, right? Life involves adversity. And if you've only had everything good, the first time something happens that you don't expect, you're just going to wilt. So I don't care who you are, there's always somebody, people who are successful have always had some kind of failure or adversity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stay on,
Right.
to rebound.
A lot of people are afraid to create something because they don't want to fail. They're afraid to start, launch, create, whatever it might be, post, because they don't want to fail. What do you think is worse than failure? If failure is actually a good thing for a lot of people to help them learn and grow, what is worse than failing?
Not trying.
Yeah.
So, if you fail, and people are laughing at you, etc., and you feel kind of vulnerable to criticism, etc., you take that moment and you learn from it. You learn what you did wrong, right? You learn what didn't work. And then you grow from that, and then the second thing that you create is going to be powerful, and it's going to be successful. I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
What is worse than
so
failing?
If you never try, you're never going to learn, right? And a lot of people don't try because they're afraid of that very thing, of actually failing. They'll disguise it as, I'm not ready. I didn't go to the right school. I don't have funding. My daddy isn't rich. People aren't helping me. There's a pandemic. It's bad out there, etc. No. So you're just blaming the fact that you're afraid of failure, right? You're finding excuses. Actually, the pandemic is it's a terrible, terrible thing. Don't get me wrong. It's 650,000 people have died. It's insane. But business-wise, it's an incredible opportunity for you. There is so much change going on that if you're young and you're smart and you've got some skill, you create something incredibly brilliant and find your own niche. So stop whining and stop blaming other forces and try. Even before you're ready, start that business, try something and learn from it.
Yes.
I tried many things and I failed many, 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 many times before I wrote the 48 Laws of Power, And it taught me a lot about myself. And then I did the 50th Law with 50 Cent. And the first version of the book that we turned in, the publishers didn't really like it. It was my first real failure as a successful writer. And made me go, well, Robert, maybe you're losing a little bit. And then I kind of heard why they didn't like it. It hurt, but I understood. It was a failure, but no one ever will see it. And then I go, okay, I need to make this book more kind of, a certain style that I've done before. All right, I'm going to not complain, and I'm going to produce this book in the 8 months that they gave me to redo the whole thing. And I learned from it something that I will never forget about why that book failed, and I've never repeated that mistake again. So you have to learn from your mistakes, and you have to be willing to fail. Otherwise, you're never going to develop that kind of thick skin that the world requires.
What's the conversations we should be having with ourselves more to set ourselves up on the path of accomplishing, achieving, and feeling better about who we are and our uniqueness in the world?
Well, one conversation you should be having is very simple. Life is shorter than you think. Okay, you're 25 and you're thinking, wow, I've got 10 years to figure it all out. I've got all these vistas of time. I'm young, I'm healthy, etc. You don't have nearly as much time as you think you do. It goes very fast.
Really?
So you need a sense of urgency and energy. Like, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to have to try and start that business. I'm going to have to do something. I don't have as much time as I think I have, right? And you have to develop some fire inside of you. You have to say, a lot of times people don't give you deadlines in this world, right? So you could spend your whole 20s and 30s never producing the thing that you dreamed of because no one's pushed you. No one said, you better do this by the time you're 35 or we're throwing you out of the house or we're whatever. There are no consequences for procrastinating. You have to create those consequences. You have to live on what I call death ground.
Ooh.
Death ground means your back is up against the wall, the enemy is coming at you, and it's either defeat them or die, right? And you have to tell yourself, I only have so much time, right? The peak creative years for anybody is in their early 30s.
Really?
I think so, I believe so. And people have borne that out in various studies. Yeah, there's a different kind of creativity that one can have when you reach my advanced age. But the really fluid creative times, and I know it personally, are in your 30s. And they creep up really quickly. And if by the time you're in your mid-30s and you haven't started creating something, man, you're going to be in your 40s and it's almost going to be too late. So you don't have as much time as you think you have. That should be the number one conversation that you have with yourself.
Any other conversations besides sense of urgency?
Well, the worst thing in life is to be 55 or 60 and to go, I had potential, I had dreams. When I was a kid, I was going to think I was do this, and you've realized none of that, right? So you want to have accomplished something in life, something that you're proud of. It doesn't have to be a book or anything. It can be something that lasts, that you're proud of, that gives you a sense of accomplishment, right? Because that carries off into every aspect of your life. It carries off into your relationships. It carries off into how well you sleep at night, etc. So you want to have that in life. You want to accomplish something. What is it? What is it I want to accomplish? What was I meant to accomplish? And how can I start on the process tomorrow? Not next week or next year, tomorrow, right? Maybe you can't start because you don't have the money, but you can start planning. You can start maybe taking classes or learning skills that you can do that tomorrow, etc.
You've had a pretty positive attitude, I think, in the last couple of years. I'm curious, what has been the biggest lesson for you with going through a massive stroke, where it's hindered your relationships, where it's hindered your physical activity, your ability to work on the things you're passionate about? What's been the big lessons?
Well, I'm a very driven person, so I wasn't going to let this defeat me, because the alternative was losing hope and becoming suicidal, and I wasn't going to let that happen. Also, I knew I had another book that I really, really wanted to write, so I had to keep living, and I was in a coma for a while, and things were a little bit touch and go during that, and I feel like there was something willed inside of me unconsciously that kept me alive. The other weird thing is, I spent a lot of my time alone, swimming, hiking, writing. It just so happened, just by coincidence, that I was driving when my wife was there. And so I have a feeling that I kind of almost was ready to have my stroke once she was there. I can't say that for sure. These are, weird kind of psychic, almost kind of thoughts. But I felt like there was some willpower in me that was keeping me alive so I could keep going. But the main lesson was, it's been a struggle. I can't say it's been easy. I can't lie and say, I've just figured it all out and I'm this incredible superhuman being. I've had moments where I've cried. I've had moments where I felt like giving up. It's like a daily struggle. And other people, I know a lot of people in this world suffer. They have it a lot worse than I do. I have a comfortable life. I have a lot of money. I have my books, etc. But on the level of my body, just every day has been a struggle. I wake up, can I walk? Will I fall? Can I hold this in my hand? It's so dependent on other people. I'm a very independent person. So I've had to really, really work on myself and really develop a lot of patience, which I don't have. And the thing is, when you get an illness like this or something happens like that, the natural thing is just to sort of wait it out and wait until your body recovers. And people said I would have a full recovery 2 years down the line or so. So the tendency would be just to let it go and let time take its healing process. But I wouldn't let that. I don't know why, but I was like, no, I'm going to work out every single day. I'm going to do therapy 2 or 3 hours a day. I bought a special bicycle because I can't do a normal bicycle. It's a recumbent bike where you sit down. Man, it's like the hardest thing. You have to get up these incredible hills, and 80-year-old grandmothers are whizzing by me on their bicycle.
This is outdoors.
Outdoors in Griffith Park, yeah.
Wow.
But I'm just determined to beat the thing. And sometimes it beats me. So every day it's like a battle, it's like a boxing match. Who's going to win? But I'm not going to give up. I just keep trying and trying. I'm going to see a new therapist. I'm working on new exercises. I'm working on different parts of my body. I'm trying to build strength in certain muscles so I can start walking normally. Because as you know, working out, swimming and hiking and bicycling, that was my main way of de-stressing. I loved it. I loved being out in nature. I loved being alone with my thoughts. And to have that ripped away, it was like having, part of your whole body taken away from you. So But I'm pretty relentless.
Yeah.
That's my lesson. I didn't give up.
Which book of yours that you've written and the lesson in that book have you had to lean back on more than any other lesson or principle from all the books? How is it? Which one is like really, that's interesting that I wrote about this 5 years ago and now I really need to apply it?
Well, the last 3 books would be more applicable. So there's the book with 50 Cent, The 50th Law, which is about fear and overcoming your fear. And in fact, the last chapter was about the fear of death in that book. And, I've had to deal with a lot of fear. You don't know what it's like. Every day you're walking and you don't know the next moment you're going to fall. I've had several falls, and falls are literally what will do you in. So it's constant fear, and I just won't let it affect me. I push past my limits. I do things that I'm not supposed to do. I take hikes, even though I have to hold on to somebody to do it. People think I'm crazy. So I had to deal with my fear. Mastery taught me that repetition, doing something over and over and over again, like any kind of skill, learning a skill like basketball or whatever, leads to something. So every day, just using my left hand instead of my right hand, forcing myself and slowly getting used to it, that taught me a lot. And then the laws of human nature, I have one thing that when you have a stroke, it affected the right side of my brain, which destroyed the left side of my body. Mm-hmm. And supposedly when the right side of your brain is damaged, it tends to make you more emotional. And I've definitely become more emotional. So I've had to learn to control some of my anger, some of my impatience, some of my frustration. And obviously the laws of human nature are a lot about that. And the last chapter is about having to deal with death. And so with all of the things I'm dealing with and all the kind of, God damn it, why can't I do that? I have to keep reminding myself I'm alive. I'm going to write another book. The birds are out there chirping. It could have been a much different story. Last month, 6 weeks ago, was the 2nd year anniversary of the stroke. And I had this thought, this could have been the 2nd anniversary of my death.
Wow.
And what people would be like gathering together, or maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. But it would be like the anniversary of my death. But it's not. I've been given a second lease, and I have to think about that every single day.
Isn't that crazy to think that when you die, hopefully people will think nice things about you, and every year they'll get together and say, hey, let's tell a nice story about our friend or that we lost, hopefully. But isn't that crazy to think that someday we're going to die, and someday no one's going to remember us?
It's a weird thought. And it's also like, I wrote about this, I can't remember, I think it was in the 50th Law, where enough time passes, nobody remembers you.
No one.
200 years from now, no one will even know who Lewis Howes was or Robert Greene, And so all traces of you are gone. Yeah, it's a weird thought. And
you might be in a history book or something, maybe.
Maybe. If the planet is still here.
It's here,
yeah, that's true. But this is sort of what my next book is about. You have to be able to take every kind of negative experience or emotion in life and find a way to transmute it into something healthy and positive. So how do you take that thought and turn it into something life-affirming and productive? And so my way is, okay, that very well may be, I better make the most of what the time that I have, because in 200 years, I'm nothing, right? Also, through my books, I will have a life that will go on. I will have a legacy. Work on that. Think about people reading you in the future. So I use it, any kind of negative thing. This is sort of the idea of amor fati that I've talked about in my books. Any bad thing that fate brings you, you have to find a way. It's like alchemy. Using the Philosopher's Stone, you transform that into gold through a mental process.
How do you think we can transform ourselves into the person or the people we want to become when there only seems to be negative experiences in our life? I'm hearing you talk about transmuting negative into a positive. How can we truly transform ourselves into this desired dream life when it seems like everything is out to get me, the government isn't the way I want it to be, my friends are not the right friends? What do you think we can start to do to transform ourselves?
Well, I would tell people to read chapter 8 of the Laws of Human Nature, because I go deeply into that, which is the law about your attitude. And the idea is you have a viewpoint, a perspective. It's like the lens on a camera. And it's through that lens that you view the world and you view people and you view events. And no two people see the same event in the same way, right? And so your attitude, how you look at the world, will determine what you get in life. So if you're focusing on all the obstacles, if you're focusing on the government, if you're focusing on COVID, if you're focusing on this person didn't give me that thing, my parents didn't give me that thing, that's you creating your attitude. You're building it. It's like a crystallization process. This crystal starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger as each new crystal is added, and you crystallize this negative defensive attitude towards life, and that's what you're going to get. And there's simple examples of that. So if I'm kind of come to this interview and I'm sort of defensive and I don't really feel good about Lewis, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, you've picked that up on me because you're a very astute person, you're very sensitive. You pick it up. And so you're not going to be very friendly to me. So my initial attitude creates a reaction in you, which is negative. It starts from me. But because most people are kind of paranoid and don't have that self-awareness, they'll think, God, Lewis is such an asshole. Pardon? I don't know if I can say this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not on television. Lewis is such an asshole. He's so cold. Why is he? But it's coming from me. And you're not realizing it. So you create how people react to you. You create how negative